Okay, we're here to do a couple concept questions for 2.2. And this is one of the things we talked about that I didn't cover a lot in the lecture is writing an expression and then therefore an equation with two different operations in them. And so this is an example of one of those. So it says Oliver pays 1/3 of the rent plus utilities every month. This month, the utilities were $56 and Oliver paid $270. How much is the rent? And so I want you to look at these and see which one you think would represent the correct equation for this situation. Okay, I'm going to start by saying that the value that we're looking for is how much is the rent. So that's our variable. So when I talk about rent, I'm going to call that X because usually when I'm looking at these problems, the thing that I'm looking for is the unknown. So it's the variable that we're going to try to solve for. So then if I go back up to this very first statement, it gives me a statement that doesn't actually have an equals in it, but it does make a statement. It says Oliver pays 1/3 of the rent plus utilities. Now 1/3 of means multiply by 1/3. So I'm going to take 1/3 times X. Now, if we look at 1/3 times X, another way of writing that is X over 1, and we do the multiplication straight across, so that's X over 3. So that's another way of writing 1/3 of X. X divided by 3. Okay, then it says, he pays 1/3 of the rent, X over 3, plus, that's an addition sign, utilities every month. But we don't want two variables, and so we look at the next statement. It says, this month the utilities were $56. So we're going to take that X plus 3, which was his 1/3 of the rent, and we're going to plus 56, dollars to it. Now that is an expression with two different operations. It has a division by 3 and an addition by 56 to the X. And then it says he paid $270 altogether. Well, that's if he takes and pays 1/3 of the rent plus the $56. It totals 270, which means it equals 270. We therefore now made it into an equation, and then when we have an equation, we can actually solve and figure out what the amount of the rent is, how much X is. If I had just stopped at the expression and just looked at the expression here, there is no way I can figure out what X equals because you have to have an equation to figure that out. And so that's a difference between an expression, which is just part of an equation, just 1/2, and an equation where we have the equal sign. Okay, let's go to our next one. Okay, evaluate 36 minus 5x for x equaling -3. So we're just practicing putting in the value -3 for our variable and using order of operations to figure out what that equals. Okay, if you came up with 51, you were exactly right. This is 36 minus 5 times -3. Our order of operations say to do multiplication first. So we get 36 minus a -15. And minus a negative is adding a positive. So that would be adding a positive 15. And when I add 36 and 15, I get 51. So 3 is our correct answer. Okay, the next one, it's just asking you in which of these expressions would you begin simplifying with a multiplication. So I want you to just look through and figure which one would you do do a multiplication problem first. Okay, if you said number 2, you would be absolutely correct, because if you look, there's a subtraction, a multiplication, and a subtraction. So we want to do the multiplication first. Number 1 is not, because we need to do inside the parentheses first, which is actually a subtraction. And then we would do the multiplication. Same thing with number 3. We'd need to do inside the parentheses first, then do the multiplication. And same thing with 4, but we'd have to actually simplify both parentheses first before we did the multiplication. So number 2 is correct on that answer. Okay, this is just kind of reviewing how to write those expressions again. It says Claudia reduced her daily calorie intake by 50 calories. Which of these is an expression for her new calorie intake? And if I reduce something, reduce is another way of saying subtracting. Now, we look at this, and she actually reduced her calorie intake by 50 calories. That means you would take calories minus 50, because it was reducing the calorie intake by 50. And so it would be C minus 50. We know that 50 is not going to be total calories, and you would never take 50 minus C. We'd end up in negative calories really fast. I think, what is it, 1,500 calorie or 1,000 calorie diet is what you normally have, and if I take 50 minus that 1,000, we're going to be in negative territory really fast, and I don't think most people have negative calories each day. Would be nice. I would like it, because, boy, that would help me lose weight. Okay, that's the end of this section 2.2.